The city of 100 spires, Anna had always believed that cities carried their own music. Kiev had the sound of trams rattling past gray blocks. Paris hummed with the hurried clink of cafe spoons. And Rome sang in a language older than stone. But Prague was different. Her first step onto the cobblestones felt like stepping into a forgotten melody. The city didn't announce itself. It whispered, letting the creak of old wooden doors and the hush of the Vltava River play against the far-off toll of church bells. The September sky was washed in a pale blue that promised both comfort and melancholy. Anna pulled her scarf closer. She was 27, with paint still under her nails and the exhaustion of deadlines in her shoulders. The residency invitation had felt like a lifeline. 2 months in Prague, a studio in Žižkov, and time to breathe. Time to paint without commission, without clients asking for portraits of their children or corporate logos. The taxi dropped her at a modest pension not far from Old Town. She climbed the narrow staircase, every step echoing centuries of forgotten tenants. Her room was small but had a balcony, and when she opened it, the view stole her breath. Red rooftops climbing toward the spires of Tin Church, and beyond them, the castle perched like a crown. For a moment, Anna forgot the weight she had carried from home, the phone calls unanswered, the fear that her art was only a dream delaying adulthood. She let the city replace those thoughts with its own. She first saw him the next morning. The residency had arranged a casual tour of the district for its artists. Their guide, a quick-speaking Czech woman, led them past arcades and hidden courtyards. Anna trailed behind, sketchbook in hand, scribbling outlines of statues and archways at the corner of Husova Street, where the shadows of Gothic facades pressed close. She noticed a man standing apart from the group. He was tall, with dark hair pulled carelessly back and a rolled set of papers under his arm. His gaze wasn't on the group, but on the building across the street, an old structure with flaking plaster and boarded windows. When their eyes met, he gave the smallest nod, not a greeting but an acknowledgement, as though he recognized in her the same obsession with details. Tomáš, the guide said when he eventually joined them. Architect. He helps us with the residency sometimes. Tomáš. The name felt sharp on the tongue, like the edges of the stone he studied. Anna wanted to ask what he saw in that abandoned building. Instead, she tucked her question away and followed the group into a cafe, where the smell of strong coffee rose above the chatter of tourists. That evening, after the official tour ended, Anna wandered alone toward the river. The Charles Bridge was crowded even in the cooling dusk. Street musicians, portrait artists, vendors selling cheap jewelry. Yet the crowd seemed to dissolve into the rhythm of the city. She leaned against the stone balustrade, sketching the silhouette of the towers against the sunset. A violin began to play, soft at first, then swelling into a tune that might have been folk or might have been improvised. When she looked up, she saw him, not Tomáš, but another man, younger, with a mane of curly hair and a battered violin case open at his feet. His bow moved like a storyteller's hand, coaxing the crowd into silence. Coins clinked, but the musician seemed unaware of them. His eyes were closed, his expression one of quiet surrender. Anna drew him too, in quick strokes. She would learn later his name was David, that he came from Lyon, that he believed music was the only language worth speaking. But in that moment, he was simply part of Prague's voice. Back at her room, Anna pinned the sketches to the wall above her desk. The city had given her 3 beginnings in one day: a view, an architect, and a violinist. She wondered which of them would matter most. She didn't yet know that Prague never allowed a single path. The city liked to weave its stories together until love and mystery and betrayal were all threads of the same tapestry. Anna fell asleep to the echo of bells, her dreams already haunted by spires. The cafe circle the residency organizers insisted that every visiting artist discover Prague not only through monuments, but through conversation. And in Prague, conversation meant cafe stood on her third evening. Anna followed the others down winding streets until they reached a cafe whose name she forgot the moment she entered. What she remembered was the light, honeyed, spilling across bentwood chairs and shelves stacked with mismatched books. The walls were stained with smoke from another century, and the tables seemed carved with the ghosts of long arguments. The residency director introduced them to the cafe's unofficial host, a young woman with copper hair pulled into a messy knot, apron dusted with coffee grounds, and eyes that held the kind of mischief that made secrets slip. "This is Martina," the director said. "She's been serving artists longer than we've been funding them." Martina gave a theatrical bow. "And I've overheard more confessions than any priest in this city. So order wisely." Laughter broke the stiffness of the group. Anna slid into a chair near the window, notebook ready. She wasn't here to drink. She wanted to capture faces. Artists had a way of revealing themselves in their pauses. The first to speak was a man already scribbling in his own notebook. Round glasses, tailored coat despite the September warmth. His accent, when he introduced himself, carried Italy like perfume. "Valentina," he said, then corrected himself with a laugh. "My name is Valentina. I write stories, blogs, fragments. I came to Prague to find love stories that don't sound like fairy tales." Martina snorted. "Then you came to the wrong city. Prague makes everything sound like a fairy tale, even breakups." Valentina only smiled and wrote that down. Next was a tall man slouched over a laptop, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. His Ukrainian sounded too familiar for Anna to miss. "Alexei," he said reluctantly. "IT stuff? Startups? Well, former startups. I came to Prague to—" He hesitated, searching for a word. "To unplug." Martina raised an eyebrow. "You came to a cafe full of Wi-Fi to unplug?" "Exactly," Alexei muttered, and returned to his keyboard. Anna thought the introductions were over until the door opened and a gust of violin strings swept in. The French street musician she had sketched on the Charles Bridge, David, entered, hair damp from the evening mist, violin still slung across his back. "Bonsoir," he said, as though the cafe were a stage. "I heard there is a circle here, and where there is a circle, there must be music." Martina sighed, already pulling a glass from the shelf. "Another romantic. Just what this place needed." David bowed extravagantly to her, then to the group, before choosing a seat directly across from Anna. "You were drawing me yesterday," he said without preamble. Anna blinked. "I sketch everything." "Still," David replied, "I hope you caught my good side." His grin was infuriating and somehow disarming. Conversation flowed as naturally as the wine that Martina finally surrendered to serving. The group argued about whether art should comfort or disturb, whether Prague belonged more to history or to the tourists who photographed it endlessly. Anna found herself listening more than speaking. Tomáš hadn't come. She realized she was disappointed. Instead, she watched David gesturing with his hands, Valentina jotting phrases between sips of red wine. Alexei fighting the urge to check his phone. Martina moved like a conductor behind the bar, rolling her eyes, refilling glasses, occasionally dropping sharp comments that cut deeper than they should. When the evening thinned and the candles burned low, Anna stepped outside into the night. The streets glowed with lanterns, the kind that seemed designed not to illuminate but to exaggerate shadows. She breathed in the damp air, heavy with hops from nearby breweries. Prague suits you. A voice said that it was David. Violin case in hand. Expression softened from his earlier bravado. Anna tightened her scarf. You hardly know me. I don't need to know you, he said. The city has already claimed you. I can see it in your eyes. Before Anna could answer, a different voice interrupted. You shouldn't believe everything he says. Tomáš stood a few paces away, hands in his coat pockets, gaze steady. He hadn't joined them inside, but had clearly been watching. His presence shifted the air, grounding it after David's theatricality. David laughed lightly. And you are? Someone who prefers to let Prague speak for itself, Tomáš replied. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. Anna felt caught between two currents, one pulling her toward fire, the other toward stone. She excused herself quickly, retreating down the cobblestones before either man could follow. But their voices, different as night and day, followed her all the same. Back in her room, Anna tried to paint. The brush hovered above the canvas, unwilling to commit. She realized she wasn't painting a landscape at all. She was painting lines that twisted like streets, shapes that resembled spires, shadows that low. Whispers of the old library. The next morning, Anna's phone vibrated with a message. She didn't remember giving her number to Tomáš, but somehow he had it. Meet me at the Clementinum. Noon. There's something you should see. No explanation. No greeting. Just a location and time. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. She had planned to spend the day painting in the studio, drowning the confusion of last night in color. But curiosity, that quiet tyrant of every artist. By noon, she was standing in the courtyard of the Clementinum, the sprawling Baroque complex that had once housed astronomers, priests, and scholars. The air smelled of stone dust and old paper. Tomáš waited near the entrance, coat draped over one arm. He looked as though he belonged here, his sharp profile blending seamlessly with the architecture. You came, he said simply. You didn't give me much choice, Anna replied that he half smiled, a rare expression on his otherwise guarded face. Come. Inside, the library unfolded like a cathedral of books. Vaulted ceilings painted with frescoes of wisdom and science, rows upon rows of ancient volumes, globes resting like silent oracles. The air carried the musk of centuries. Anna froze at the threshold. It's like stepping inside a painting. Tomáš lowered his voice, though they were alone. This was the heart of knowledge in Bohemia. Astronomers mapped the stars here. Philosophers argued the nature of the soul. And yet, he touched the edge of a shelf. So much remains hidden. He led her to a side room, smaller, less ornate. Here, maps were laid out under protective glass, hand-drawn charts of Prague across the centuries. Bridges that no longer stood, streets that ended abruptly, strange symbols scribbled in margins. This is what I wanted to show you, Tomáš said. Prague is a palimpsest. Layers upon layers of the city, built over ruins, secrets buried beneath streets. These maps, they hint at tunnels, forgotten catacombs, even entire chambers. Anna leaned closer. One map showed the old town with a series of dotted lines spiraling beneath it like veins. Do they still exist? She asked some. Others are only legends. My grandfather spoke of passages used during the war, of vaults older than Christianity itself, places where Prague hides its heart. Anna traced the lines with her finger on the glass. And why show me this? Tomáš hesitated, then met her gaze. Because you see things, not just surfaces. Last night on the bridge, the way you looked at the city. Most people take pictures. You draw. That means you're willing to listen. His words landed heavier than she expected. She wasn't used to being seen like that, not by clients, not even by friends back home. They walked slowly down the length of the library, voices swallowed by the vaulted ceiling. Why architecture? Anna asked that Tomáš's jaw tightened, as though the answer cost him something. Because buildings tell the truth people forget. Families lie, governments lie, but stone keeps its memory. My father was an engineer. He built things to last. I restore them, bring back what others neglect. There was pride in his tone, but also bitterness. And you? He asked. Why paint? Anna smiled faintly. Because I can't not. It's the only way I know how to breathe. Even when it makes no sense. Even when it doesn't pay. Then you understand, Tomáš said softly. For a moment, the silence between them felt like a third presence. Not uncomfortable, but charged. As if the books themselves were listening. When they stepped back into the courtyard, the sun was beginning to lower, painting the sandstone in warm gold. Anna turned to him. Thank you for showing me this. Tomáš inclined his head. It won't be the last secret if you're willing to see. She wanted to ask what he meant, but before she could, a familiar sound drifted through the courtyard, the distant notes of a violin. David's violin that he was playing near the entrance, bowed dancing effortlessly across the strings. People gathered, tourists clapping in rhythm. His eyes found Anna immediately, and his grin widened that Tomáš's expression cooled. Your musician friend. He's not, Anna began, but Tomáš was already walking away, his steps echoing against the stone. David approached with the confidence of someone who never doubted his welcome. And here you are again. I'm beginning to think fate prefers me in your story. Anna folded her arms, still watching Tomáš's retreating figure vanish into the street. Or maybe Prague just likes to play games. David laughed, careless, but Anna felt the city stir around them, as though agreeing. That night, in her small room, she laid out her sketches of the maps. The dotted lines haunted her, veins beneath the city, secrets waiting to surface. She wondered what kind of stories Prague wanted her to uncover, and whether Tomáš was one of them. Nights at Hemingway Bar's sign outside Hemingway Bar was almost invisible unless you knew to look for it. A single brass plate on Caroline Svedal Street, modest enough that tourists often walked past. But inside, the dim glow of amber light revealed a different world. Martina had insisted the group come. No artist survives Prague without Hemingway, she declared, polishing glasses behind the cafe counter earlier that week. Here, people don't just drink. They confess. And so, on Friday night, Anna found herself stepping into a room heavy with velvet shadows and whispers of jazz. Bottles lined the shelves like jewels, and the scent of citrus and aged rum hung in the air. The bar was crowded but hushed, as if every patron carried a secret too delicate to speak above a murmur. Martina led the way, no longer a waitress but a queen in her domain. The bartenders greeted her with familiarity, sliding menus into her hands without asking. Tonight, Martina said, sliding one across the table to Anna. You drink something dangerous. Anna raised an eyebrow. Dangerous how? Dangerous, Martina replied. Because you won't stop at one. They sat around a low table, Anna, Valentina, Alexei, David, and a handful of other residency artists who had tagged along. Tomáš, as usual, was absent. Valentina ordered absinthe, explaining she was collecting details for a new blog post about how cities intoxicate differently. Paris makes you drunk on romance, she mused. Prague? It's drunk on memory. Alexei stuck to beer, tapping distractedly at his phone between sips until Martina threatened to confiscate it. You came here to unplug, remember? Yeah, he muttered, but my brain didn't. David, of course, ordered champagne. He claimed that bubbles kept the soul light. When the glasses clinked, his eyes lingered on Anna's longer than they should have. As the night deepened, conversations loosened. Valentina spoke of Venice, where she had once followed a couple for an entire day just to watch their silent arguments unfold. Martina told a story about a Prague bartender who faked his own death to escape gambling debts. Alexei, unexpectedly, admitted he had left Kiev not because of work, but because of a breakup so brutal he no longer trusted his own judgment. The group laughed, winced, and argued, but the undercurrent was always the same. Prague pulling confessions from their mouths like threads from a tapestry. Anna listened, sipping the dangerous cocktail Martina had chosen for her, a mix of rum, lime, and something smoky she couldn't name. The warmth spread through her, loosening the edges of her caution. When David pulled out his violin and began to play softly at the table, the bar seemed to hold its breath. The melody was slower than on the bridge, a low, yearning tune that curled into the corners of the room. Even the bartenders paused. Bottles Madeired, he played for Anna, and everyone knew it. Her cheeks warmed under his gaze. She sketched him quickly on a napkin, if only to hide the flush. When the set ended, applause scattered the quiet, and David leaned closer to Anna. You should let me paint you with sound sometime, he said. Anna forced a laugh. And what would that sound like? Like the moment just before dawn, David said, voice soft, full of promise, full of questions. Before she could answer, a shadow fell across the table. Tomáš thought he stood in the dim light, his presence heavy enough to silence even David. His coat was damp from the mist, his expression unreadable. Didn't think you'd come, Martina said. Surprised. I almost didn't, Tomáš replied. His eyes, however, were fixed only on Anna. The air grew taut, fragile. David leaned back in his chair, lips curling into a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ah, the architect arrives. Perhaps you'd like to play a duet, Anna? Stone and song. Tomáš ignored him. May I speak with you? He asked Anna directly. Her pulse quickened. She nodded, excusing herself as Tomáš guided her away from the table, toward the quieter back of the bar. They stopped near a wall lined with rare bottles, where the noise dimmed to a low hum. You shouldn't let him pull you in, Tomáš said without preamble. Anna folded her arms. And why not? He's kind, passionate. He's careless, Tomáš countered. He burns bright, but he leaves ashes. The intensity in his tone startled her. You barely know me. Why do you care? Tomáš hesitated. His jaw worked, as though holding back something unsaid. Because Prague isn't kind to those who mistake fire for warmth. I've seen too many. He stopped, eyes flicking away. Just be careful. Anna searched his face, wondering what ghosts haunted him, what losses he carried in those shadows behind his eyes. But before she could ask, Martina appeared with a tray of fresh glasses. Careful, she said, overhearing. No one comes to Hemingway to be careful. You come to surrender. She winked at Anna and vanished again into the crowd, leaving the weight of her words lingering like perfume. Later that night, when the group spilled out into the cobbled street, the mist clung to the air, softening the city into watercolor. David offered to walk Anna home, but she declined, sensing the tension coiled too tightly between him and Tomáš. Instead, she wandered alone, the alcohol humming in her veins, her mind restless. She thought of David's music, Tomáš's warning, Martina's challenge on the bridge. The river glowed under lanterns, a shifting mirror of gold and black. She leaned over the balustrade, heart caught between beats. Somewhere deep within the city, bells tolled midnight, and Anna knew this was only the beginning of Prague's test. The city tests them the days after Hemingway bar blurred into a strange rhythm. Anna painted feverishly in her small studio, canvases multiplying across the walls. The city had seeped into her brushstrokes, spires twisting into storm clouds, narrow alleys turning into veins, rivers becoming veins of light. She painted Tomáš's shadow without meaning to, David's music curling through colors she couldn't name. She told herself it was only Prague inspiring her, not the people inside it. But her art betrayed her lies. The test arrived quietly, in the form of an email, subject, invitation to exhibit in Vienna. Anna read the words 3 times, hardly breathing. A gallery she had applied to months ago, without hope, almost as a joke, wanted to host her work. Not one piece, an entire collection. The exhibition date was 3 months away. Preparation would mean leaving Prague within weeks. Her hands trembled as she closed the laptop. This was what she had dreamed of: recognition, legitimacy. Yet instead of joy, she felt a hollow ache, as though something precious was already slipping away. She thought of Tomáš, of the way his voice had lowered in the Clementinum, as if guarding the city's secrets. She thought of David's music, of Martina's sly warnings, of Valentina's notebook filled with half-truths. Could she abandon all of this for Vienna? Could she stay? That evening, the cafe circle met again. Martina had dragged Alexei along despite his protests. He looked less haunted than usual, as though her presence kept his cynicism in check. Valentina scribbled endlessly, occasionally reading her fragments aloud. Prague teaches you that love is not possession. It is a loan, like a book you never truly own. Sounds depressing, Alexei muttered. Sounds true, Martina countered, pouring herself more wine. Anna remained quiet, her news unspoken. She wasn't ready to see their reactions reflected back at her. When Tomáš arrived late, rain still glistening on his coat, Anna's chest tightened. He slid into the seat beside her without ceremony. "You've been painting," he said, eyes on the traces of cobalt on her fingers. "I've been trying," Anna corrected. "Trying is the only thing worth doing," Tomáš said. She wanted to tell him about Vienna, about how trying might mean leaving, but the words lodged in her throat. Instead, she asked, "And you?" Still restoring ghosts. His expression darkened. "Always." Later, when the others were distracted by David's latest performance, a reckless rendition of a tango that drew applause, Tomáš leaned closer. "I have to leave for Brno next week," he said quietly. "Family matters. I don't know how long I'll be gone." The ache in Anna's chest widened. First Vienna, now Brno. It felt as though the city itself was conspiring to tear them apart before they had even begun. That night, Anna walked home alone, rain slicking the cobblestones into mirrors. Her reflection followed her, fragmented in puddles, multiplying her indecision. When she reached her room, she opened her laptop again, staring at the gallery email. Her cursor hovered over the reply button. Yes, she whispered to herself. No, the church bells rang midnight, as though the city were laughing at her hesitation. Meanwhile, across town, Martina and Alexei sat in Hemingway Bar, long after the others had left. You look less like a ghost tonight, Martina said, swirling her glass. That's because you keep talking, Alexei replied dryly. Martina smirked. And yet you stayed. He didn't answer, but when she reached across the table and stole his phone, turning it face down, he didn't protest. Anna didn't sleep. She painted until dawn, her canvas filling with the image of a bridge, two figures standing on opposite ends, the river rushing between them. One was fire, one was stone, and she, the painter, didn't know which side to choose. Asterisk, 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 crossroads. The air in Prague grew colder, the kind of autumn chill that carried the smell of damp stone and wood smoke. The tourists thinned, the city seemed to exhale, and yet for Anna the streets felt more crowded than ever, crowded with choices. Her Vienna invitation sat in her inbox like a loaded question. Tomáš had left for Brno days earlier, his absence stretching longer than she'd expected. He sent only brief messages, spare as his speech. Busy here. Will return soon. Nothing more. David, on the other hand, was everywhere. She found him on the Charles Bridge one evening, his bow cutting through a restless melody that made passers-by stop mid-step. The sun was sinking, the towers framed in firelight. And Anna realized she had stopped too. Stopped, sketched, breathed in the music like it belonged to her. When he finished, the crowd scattered, but David's eyes stayed fixed on her. You always listen differently, he said, slinging the violin over his shoulder. As if you're not just hearing but answering. Anna laughed softly, uncomfortable. Maybe that's just how I sketch. No, he said firmly. It's how you live. That's why. He trailed off, then took a step closer. That's why I need to tell you something. The bell struck from Street Nicholas. The air trembled. I'm in love with you. Anna. The words were simple, but the certainty in his voice made them heavier than stone. Anna froze. The city blurring around her. You don't have to answer, David continued quickly. But I needed to say it. Every note I play, it's already you. If you leave Prague without knowing, it would be a crime against the music itself. Anna's chest tightened. She wanted to run, to laugh, to erase the moment with a sketch of anything else. Instead, she whispered, David. He caught her hand, gentle but firm. Don't say no tonight. Just think. That night, she lay awake, the city restless outside her window. She thought of Tomáš, his silence, his shadows, the way he looked at maps as if searching for hidden truths. And she thought of David, his fire, his reckless certainty, his way of making the world vibrate with possibility. Two men, two languages, two ways of being seen, and Vienna, waiting silently like a third lover she hadn't chosen. When Tomáš finally returned, days later, he looked older, wearier. They met at the Clementinum again, but this time his eyes carried something unspoken. You've been busy, Anna said, studying him. Family matters, he replied shortly. Are you all right? He hesitated, then forced a nod. I will be. But he didn't ask about her painting, about her silence. He seemed wrapped in stone walls even thicker than before. Frustration flared in Anna's chest. You disappear, you come back, and it's as if nothing matters to you. Do you even? She stopped, the question burning her tongue. Do you even care? Tomas's jaw tightened. It's safer that way. Safer. He turned toward the maps on the table, avoiding her gaze. You don't know this city, Anna. It gives, but it takes more. I don't want you tangled in it. And what if I already am? She demanded. He said nothing. Later, back at the cafe, Martina poured Anna a glass without asking. You're caught, aren't you? She said, eyes sharp. Anna blinked. Caught in what? In Prague's favorite game. It always offers two paths, fire or stone, passion or silence. And whichever you choose, the city will punish you for the other. Anna stared into her glass. What if I don't choose either? Martina smirked sadly. Then you'll lose both. That night, Anna painted until her fingers cramped. The canvas filled with two figures standing on opposite banks of a river, the bridge between them broken, the water roaring too fiercely to cross. Above them, the city loomed, spires twisting like thorns. When she stepped back, Anna whispered, Prague, what do you want from me? But the city, as always, only answered with silence and the echo of bells. Shadows of the Pastomas did not call. He sent no messages. Yet one evening, as Anna walked home from the cafe, she found him waiting outside her building, coat collar turned up against the drizzle. His presence startled her more than if he had vanished completely. You shouldn't be out here, she said. You shouldn't either, he replied, his voice low. Walk with me. They wound through streets Anna barely knew, alleys that curved like secrets, past courtyards hidden behind iron gates. The city looked different at night, darker, sharper, as though its bones were showing. Where are we going? She asked. To a place the tourists never see. They stopped before a door so weathered it seemed part of the wall itself. Tomáš produced a key, old and brass, and pushed it open. A damp breath of air spilled out, smelling of earth and centuries. Down, he said simply. Anna hesitated, then followed him into the shadows. The staircase spiraled into the underbelly of Prague, vaulted chambers, stone corridors, tunnels lined with bricks blackened by time. The walls were carved with names, dates, half-erased prayers. This is the city beneath the city, Tomáš said. His voice echoed, carrying weight. Flooded, burned, forgotten. Yet it holds everything the surface tries to erase. Anna traced a name with her fingertips, 1742. Why are you showing me this? She whispered, because you need to understand. He stopped in front of a chamber where a table stood, covered in maps and faded photographs. My family has guarded these passages for generations. We are archivists of what Prague wants to bury. Anna stared at him, heart racing. Guarded. From what? From oblivion. He lit a lantern, illuminating a wall where hundreds of sketches were pinned. Faces, streets, moments frozen in ink. Among them, Anna recognized her own silhouette, her breath caught. You drew me. Tomáš's expression softened. The first night, at the astronomical clock. I knew you didn't belong to the city, but somehow you did. The silence stretched, filled only by the drip of water through the stone. Anna wanted to step closer, to bridge the chasm between them. But before she could, Tomáš turned away. There are things I can't give you, he said roughly. I've seen what happens when love collides with this place. It consumes like fire, and when it burns out, all that remains is ash. She swallowed hard. Then why bring me here? Because you deserve the truth before you choose. Later that night, back in her room, Anna couldn't sleep. Tomas's words clung to her skin, heavy and unfinished. But another message waited on her phone. From David, tomorrow. Meet me at Rudolfinum. No excuses. She stared at the screen, caught between two men, one who opened a world of shadows, one who offered music and fire, and above it all, Vienna whispered point three choices. Three fates. The bell struck midnight again, echoing like a countdown. Asterisk, 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 the fire and the silence. The Rudolfinum loomed like a temple, its stone glowing pale under the autumn moon. Anna had never entered at night, but David was waiting at the steps, violin case in hand, his smile restless and electric. I bribed the guard, he whispered as she approached. Prague opens doors when it wants to. Inside, the concert hall was empty, a cathedral of sound waiting to be awakened. David led her to the stage, set down his violin, and for a moment simply looked at her. You should be in Vienna already, he said. But you're still here. Why? Anna hesitated. Because I don't know where I belong. Then let me show you. He raised the violin and began to play. Not the fiery street tangos or melancholic echoes she knew, but something slower, aching, a melody that seemed to trace every corner of her heart. The notes swelled into the vaulted ceiling, filling the silence until it broke her. Tears blurred her vision. When the last note faded, David set the violin down and crossed the stage to her. His hands cupped her face, warm, insistent. Anna, he murmured, you feel it too. Don't lie. His lips touched hers before she could answer. Fierce, consuming, pulling her into the fire he carried. For a moment, she surrendered. The world outside disappeared. There was only music, breath, and the wild beat of his heart against hers. But when he pulled back, her hands trembled. David, I can't, he repeated, his voice breaking. Or won't. Anna's silence was answer enough. The next day, she found Tomáš in the Clementinum again, bent over his maps. His shoulders looked heavier than ever, as if the city itself pressed down on him. You've been gone, he said without looking up. So have you, Anna replied softly. Their eyes met. But the warmth she longed for wasn't there. He looked away first. Vienna suits you, he said flatly. I haven't decided. Decide soon, Tomáš muttered. Prague doesn't wait. Frustration burned through her. Do you want me to stay, Tomáš? Just say it. The silence that followed was worse than any rejection. That evening, Anna confided in Martina. They sat by the Vltava, lights shimmering across the water. You kissed him, didn't you? Martina guessed, sipping from her flask. Anna flushed. It wasn't. It was, Martina interrupted. And Tomáš. He pushes me away. Every time I reach, he builds another wall. Martina's expression softened, uncharacteristically gentle. Some people love like fire. Some love like stone. One burns, one endures. But neither is easy. Anna stared at the river. And what if I want both? Martina gave a low laugh. Then the city will break you. Prague doesn't give gifts without taking something back. Later, Anna painted again. The canvas showed two figures standing inside the Rudolfinum, one ablaze in red, the other carved from shadow. Between them stretched a city of bridges, each one cracking under invisible weight. Her brush faltered. She realized with dread that whichever choice she made, something precious would shatter. Cracks in the glass the following morning. Anna awoke to the sharp glow of Prague's sunlight cutting through her curtains. Her phone vibrated incessantly. Notifications, messages, social media alerts that Valentina's blog post had gone live. Headline: A painter, an architect, and a violinist. Prague's most dangerous love triangle. Anna's stomach sank. The post didn't mention names explicitly, but the descriptions were unmistakable. A fiery musician, a brooding architect, a painter caught between them, a city as tangled as their hearts. Within hours, the post had thousands of views. Comments poured in, speculating, cheering, judging. Some were sweet. Most were cruel. She called Valentina immediately. Why? She demanded. I wanted to capture the story of Prague, Valentina said, calm as ever. And sometimes truth hides in ambiguity. Don't worry, people love a puzzle. It's not a puzzle, Anna said sharply. It's my life. Valentina shrugged. Exactly. And now everyone sees it. The cafe circle assembled that evening, tension thick as smoke. Alexei frowned at his phone, shaking his head at the flood of comments. David scowled silently, bowing his head to hide it. Tomáš didn't speak a word, eyes fixed on the table. Martina, ever blunt, finally broke the silence. Well, Prague doesn't like whispers. It prefers glass shattered. Congratulations, Valentina. Valentina met her gaze without flinching. Shattered glass can reveal what's hidden underneath. The fallout was immediate. David, furious and desperate, confronted Anna outside the cafe. Why didn't you stop her? He demanded, voice raw. Now everyone knows. You're exposed, like a painting ripped from the canvas before it's finished. Anna's hands trembled. I didn't ask her to. I didn't even know she was going to post it. You should have been careful, he yelled. Prague doesn't forgive carelessness. And yet, when she reached for his hand, he pulled away, eyes wet with frustration. Meanwhile, Tomáš sat alone at the bar, silent, but his jaw tightened. Anna knew he was struggling with the same tidal wave, not anger, but fear. Fear that the fragile trust she had placed in him and the secrets he had shared had been pushed into the light before they were ready. In the quieter corner of Hemingway Bar, Alexei and Martina lingered after the chaos. You okay? She asked, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I will be, he replied, his fingers grazing hers as he reached for his glass. But it's complicated. Seeing how much they risk for love, it's scary. Martina smirked. Love's supposed to scare you. Otherwise, it's just convenience. He laughed, a low, shaky sound. Then maybe I've been avoiding it too long. She leaned closer. Then maybe it's time you stop avoiding. Their hands touched fully this time, fingers entwined. For the first time, the air between them was soft, promising, a stark contrast to the tension elsewhere in the city. Anna left the cafe later that night, walking the cobbled streets alone. The city seemed darker, sharper, its reflections in puddles fractured by the morning's revelations. She passed the bridge where David had first played for her, but now the music felt like a warning. A violinist could seduce hearts, but it could not protect them. When she reached her studio, she sat before the canvas she had started the night before, the bridge with two figures, one fire, one stone. Tonight, she added cracks in the glass beneath their feet. Prague, she realized, did not forgive mistakes, and yet it demanded courage. The Charles Bridge at dawn, the sky over Prague was pale and tentative, the first light spilling across the red rooftops and the spires that had watched Anna's heart twist and turn for weeks. She arrived at the Charles Bridge before anyone else, the river below quiet, mist curling like smoke from an unseen fire. Every cobblestone felt heavy, every gargoyle a witness. She carried only her sketchbook and a restless heart. David appeared. First, violin slung over his back, eyes alight with hope and anxiety. "You came," he whispered, as if her presence could quiet the city itself. "I had to," Anna said softly, taking a deep breath. "We need to talk." He stepped closer, hands trembling. "Anna, I can't stop feeling this. I love you. I don't care what the city throws at us. I don't care about anything except you." From the other side of the bridge, Tomáš emerged, rain still glistening on his coat from a misty morning. His gaze landed on Anna, steady, deep, and burdened with unspoken truths. "You shouldn't have come alone," he said, voice low. "This city, it doesn't forgive." Anna's chest tightened. "I can't live in fear, Tomáš. I can't hide forever. I need to decide for myself." He took a step forward, hesitant. "Then decide wisely. Between fire and stone, the city always takes more than it gives." For a long moment, the three of them stood in silence, the river whispering below, the towers bending light around them. Anna realized this was more than a choice between two men. It was a choice between surrender and courage, between being swept along or stepping into her own life. She closed her eyes, recalling the nights in the library, the hidden tunnels beneath Prague, the music David had poured into her soul, and the quiet strength of Tomáš, who had trusted her with the city's secrets. When she opened her eyes, she faced both men, her voice steady. "I can't choose either of you," she said. "Not yet. I love both of you in different ways. But I won't lose myself to either fire or stone. I need to live my own story first." David's hands fell slowly to his sides, the hope in his eyes mingling with frustration. Tomáš's jaw tightened, and for a heartbeat, Anna feared she had shattered everything. Then, a quiet understanding passed between them, an acknowledgement. That love was not possession. That courage sometimes meant letting go. The city seemed to exhale around them. The first rays of dawn spilled across the bridge, gilding the river in gold. David lowered his violin, finally at peace with his own heart, and Tomáš took a careful step back, returning to the shadows he had always inhabited. Martina and Alexei appeared on the bridge behind them, hands entwined, laughing softly at some private joke. Valentina followed, notebook in hand, smiling for the first time without the weight of anonymity or story. The circle, broken and stretched by choices and confessions, was finally finding balance. Anna opened her sketchbook and drew the bridge, this time whole, unbroken, connecting every figure in the scene. She sketched fire and stone, music and silence, hands entwined and hearts untamed. Prague, as ever, watched silently. Its spires had seen centuries of love, loss, and daring. And now it saw her, a painter who refused to be consumed, who refused to be merely a note or shadow. She smiled. The city had tested her, and she had Sir. The city remains weeks past. Autumn deepened, painting Prague in gold and amber. The bridges, alleys, and spires held their ancient silence, indifferent to the lives that had burned briefly within them. Anna returned to her studio each morning, sketching and painting, no longer haunted by indecision. She had declined Vienna for now, choosing instead to let her work mature in the city that had tested her so mercilessly. The gallery invitation waited patiently, like a distant promise. David visited often, but their relationship had shifted. No desperate declarations, no midnight confessions. They met for music and laughter, a slow unfolding that respected the pace of her own heart. Fire remained in him, but it no longer consumed her. Tomáš, too, remained part of her life, quieter, more present in subtle ways. He shared maps, stories of hidden tunnels, and fragments of history long forgotten. Their connection was no longer defined by desire alone, but by mutual respect and trust, a foundation strong enough to endure the city's whims. Martina and Alexei became inseparable. Their unexpected bond flourished, full of teasing arguments and late-night confessions. Prague had taught them both that love was not simple. It was daring, unpredictable, and, occasionally, reckless. Yet they laughed through it all, savoring the joy of the city's unpredictable rhythm. Valentina's blog flourished as well, chronicling the residency's artists and the city that inspired them. She learned restraint, that some truths could be told without shattering the fragile lives they touched. One morning, Anna stood on the Charles Bridge, sketchbook in hand, and watched the mist rise off the Vltava. A soft wind tugged at her scarf, and she thought of the countless souls who had walked these streets before her. The secrets buried in the foundations, the loves begun and ended beneath the spires. The city seemed to pulse beneath her fingertips. She had survived its tests, its fire, and its silence. She had discovered that love, like art, was not about possession, but about presence, fleeting, beautiful, and infinitely transformative. David's laughter drifted from a nearby square. Tomáš's silhouette appeared in the distance, leaning against a wall, maps tucked under his arm. Martina and Alexei passed by, hands entwined, their smiles wide. Valentina scribbled furiously in her notebook, capturing the fleeting magic of the moment. Anna drew all of them, fire and stone, music and silence, shadow and light, onto a single page. Prague, in all its unpredictable glory, wrapped around them like a living tapestry. She smiled. The city remained, and so did they, shaped by its challenges, tempered by its tests, and yet stronger for it all. The bells tolled noon. Anna put down her pencil and stepped back. The city whispered, as it always did. And this time, she understood, some stories never end. They only continue, carried on cobblestones, music, and the heartbeats of those brave enough to live them.